Good evening, I'm Steve Ruge, and this is Betsy Henderson, and we're here for a special edition of As We See It News. Tonight, we will report on how desegregation has affected our high school, Kelvin Park, on Chicago's northwest side.
Coming up in this half hour will be special reports on the Latino influence at Kelvin Park and a new low in school spirit. Steve Ruge's focus report on gangs, the As We See It student perspective by Vince Garrido, and our roving reporter asks the question, what is Kelvin Park's reputation?
Tonight's lead story is on the new majority at Kelvin Park. Gil Diaz has the details on the scene.
I'm here in Kelvin Park High School, located at 4343 West Wrightwood in Chicago. Kelvin Park is situated in a predominantly white neighborhood, but the area which the school district covers extends into the Latino neighborhoods, which brings in a 59% Latino majority. I'm hearing something over my telex. They want to take it back to the studio for a special weather bulletin.
New developments are occurring in the racial makeup of our country's population, and we have a special update report by Carmen Garcia. Carmen?
In the last 20 years, Latinos from Cuba, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Central and South America have migrated into the United States. It's hard to tell just how many arrived before 1970 because they were counted as whites by the U.S. Census Bureau. We do know, however, that by 1970, almost 10 million Latinos were living in the larger cities like New York, Chicago, and in the Southwest. By 1978, the national Latino population increased to 12.5 million. 19 million if we include the 7.5 million illegal aliens. That makes them the fastest growing minority in the nation. The Spanish-speaking people came bringing the sons from their homeland. They came looking for better opportunities. But often their hopes were clouded over when the limited English and education meant limited job openings. Let's look at how their problems sometimes created a turbulence. Many Latinos did not come to Chicago first, but moved here during the 1930s for industrial jobs. Today, Chicago is the only city in the nation with both a substantial Mexican-American and Puerto Rican population. In 1970, Latinos made up 7% of the city's population. By the year 2000, it is estimated they make up 19%. But what is causing the turbulence that follows Chicago's Latinos? It appears that wherever Latinos settle, and especially in the inner city, the non-Hispanic families move out, heading in a northerly or westerly direction. Let's look at how these stormy conditions have affected the second-generation Latino students who attend American schools. To start, we'll take a look at a typical high school on Chicago's northwest side. Kelvin Park is situated on a northern boundary line of a large Latino community. In 1970, Kelvin Park was 15% Latino. In 1978, that increased to 59%. The latest barometer readings of the students' progress shows that while in 1970, 43% of the Kelvin Park students were college-bound, that figure dropped to 21% by 1978. The rainfall or dropout rate for the Latino population in Chicago has improved only slightly during the same period. Only 36% of Latinos 18 to 24 years old have completed high school. The weather outlook for the year 2000 is continued growth, and we hope an upward swing towards better education and job opportunities, with the possibility of clear skies. But now back to our current environmental conditions and Gil Diaz.
Thank you, Carmen. As I was saying about the 59%, they have brought about certain problems and some unique advantages. In these few minutes, we will look into the Latino majority here at Kelvin Park and the educational changes which have occurred as a result of the new and growing majority.
There's controversy over whether Kelvin Park has considered the needs of the increasing Latino population. First, we talked to a former student.
First of all, I think that Kelvin Park has to justify why there are only 3 Latino teachers when there is 59% Latino students. Also, Kelvin Park has to justify why there are no Latino counselors who can counsel Latino students.
It is my wish that in view of the fact that we have great needs at Kelvin Park in that direction, it is my wish that they would assign me a separate slot, a 5th counselor who would be bilingual. But with the economic crunch the way it is, I get no extra staff.
then Calvin Park has to justify why there isn't enough Latin American studies classes to give cultural identity to the Latino students. They have to have Latinos who can teach bilingual education so that they can relate what they know, what they've learned to the Latino students.
We have worked in service for teachers to make sure that they are able to adapt to the changing needs of the students. I would say that that could be a possible problem, but that we hope we have short-stopped it and moved in before it becomes a problem. People have to change, and when the student population changes, I think it's naive to think that the teachers don't have to do some changing too. And remember, Betsy, that human nature resists change.
Teachers sometimes feel apathetic, sometimes unconcerned about their ability to communicate. I think that some type of commonality, you know, that we're here, there is majority Hispanic people, that we should have some type of appreciation for having another language, rather than seeing it as a negative, as a positive thing. That's what I feel.
There is only one teacher who conducts several bilingual classes at Calvin Park, and recently there has been some concern over whether this program is large enough and if it effectively helps Latino students make the transition into regular classes.
According to the law, I'm supposed to teach my classes in their home language, and there are a lot of students that they can hardly speak, you know, to you in English. So when they get into, let's say, USA history class, it's pretty hard for them to understand the language. So sometimes they get low grades and all that kind of things, you know, when they get into regular classes.
The Latino family structure is quite different from the average American family structure. They have not yet been assimilated into our society in the respect that they treat their children differently. For example, the Latinos are very strict with the daughters at home. They're very tight on them, and they have extreme control on the children. On the other hand, the male has a macho image. The woman is a second-class citizen in the Latino family. So when they come to school, the girls have a tendency to let out their aggressions in school. This is the only spot they find freedom. The boys have the macho image to live up to in school. You wind up with the school being a focal point of their social life. Well, the girls and boys both want to socialize in the halls more than they want to go into class. They want to visit and see each other. So we have a chronic tardy problem, a tardy problem to school to begin with, a tardy problem to class, and we have a corridor problem, students constantly roaming the corridors.
How have the Latinos influenced Calvin Park?
Well, there's been positive and negative influences. Let's start with the positive. I run the band, and the Latinos seem to be very interested in the band, and they've joined in large numbers. And so I have better than 50% of the band is Latino, way more than the population of Latino students. But negatively, there's also more gangs than there was when it was all white.
Everything they say about gangs, about everybody getting beat up in the halls and everything, those are, you know, like rumors, but, you know, it's just everybody knows each other, you know, and everybody gets along, you know, and there's not really nothing wrong with Calvin Park.
As far as the absenteeism goes, kids seem to be coming to this school and classes whenever they feel like it. When you contact parents about the absenteeism, what you're talking is to parents who don't seem any more interested in getting their kids into schools. They show complete apathy about their sons and daughters coming to class.
I think that that's incorrect. I think my mother motivated me. My mother wanted me to get an education. My mother wanted my sisters to get educations. The mothers of the friends that I was with wanted their children to get educated so that they wouldn't have to go through the same things that our parents went, so that they wouldn't have to work in factories, so that they wouldn't be subjected to working for $2.65 an hour. It would be totally wrong to say that a parent is not concerned with the education of his children.
Do you feel the apathy of the parents is due to the changing population of the neighborhood?
Yes, I do. a lot of the parents, even though their children were born in Chicago, a lot of the parents went to the schools in Puerto Rico, Mexico, or South America, and school does represent authority, and I think a lot of these parents feel uncomfortable in school. They haven't been to the school, but just coming to the school makes them feel uncomfortable because they're dealing with an authority figure.
So in closing, we have found that the Latino students here at Calvin Park have brought some unique cultural differences which the administration and faculty were not equipped or prepared to handle. Also, that the administration here at Calvin Park has been slow in responding to the needs of the new and growing majority.
Thank you, Gil. Betsy, I understand for your report on school spirit, you attended a Calvin Park math or basketball game.
Yes, I did, Steve. You know, Calvin Park has fallen on some bad times of late. After interviewing a number of people, we found the general opinion to be that school spirit has been continually declining and has now reached an all-time low. We took our cameras on location to a varsity basketball game at Mather High School to see for ourselves.
First, the starting lineup for the Calvin Park Panthers.
The Calvin Park stands are nearly empty at today's basketball game against Mather High School. The coach and players tell us this is not at all unusual for basketball or football games in recent years. I asked Coach Joe Tatelman why he felt school spirit seems to have declined.
Well, there are many problems, and it's multiple. One, sometimes the kids themselves don't have an interest. Sometimes some leadership of the individual groups. And I would say the general decline in the attitude of wanting to be part of the school.
Carrie, it's been said that the varsity cheerleaders haven't shown up to too many games this year. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
They hardly show up at all to any games, maybe 1 out of 6 or 7.
Okay, when they do come, how long do they usually stay?
For the most part, they sit on the bench, half-dressed, and leave at halftime.
How does having an encouraging crowd and enthusiastic cheerleaders affect you when you're on the floor?
Having cheerleaders that are good and a crowd that is enthusiastic would make everybody play harder and work for more. They'd make everybody feel better.
Okay, what about when they're not there?
When they're not there, you go out and you're playing on your own, and it's as if you have no support from anybody out there. So you're just doing it for yourself.
Okay, Carrie, as a white student at Calvin Park, do you find that the Latino majority has caused you any special problems?
No, there's been no problems.
And do you feel being a white student on the varsity basketball team, having a white coach, do you feel that he favors you at all?
No, I've sat down quite a few times on the bench.
In the past few years, the Latino population at Calvin Park has risen to 59%. In your estimation, what effect has this majority, the new majority, had on the sports program and the extracurricular activities, in general, the school spirit at Calvin Park?
Well, I wouldn't particularly say that the increase caused any activities of ours to go down. However, like many ethnic groups, for example, our soccer team this year, mostly Latin kids, terrific. Baseball team, terrific. You look at the major leagues and all you see is about 85 names with Latin names. However, basketball and football has suffered.
In other areas, there is an abundance of school spirit and pride, primarily because of strong Latino participation. How does the ROTC show school spirit and school pride?
I would say that the ROTC, has several things that a cadet can get into, such as the drum and bugle, the drill platoon, the color guard, and once they get involved in these things, they compete with other schools, and it gives them a chance to, to better themselves. It gives them a chance to develop leadership skills.
Louis, there are many stereotypes that picture Latinos as being lazy and undisciplined. How do you respond to these?
I would say they're wrong.
And why?
Well, for one reason, here at Calvin Park since about 1971, you could say that Latinos were lazy and that they would fight, you know, whites and Latinos at racial riots. And since I've been in this school, Latinos and whites are learning to grow and live with each other more.
Why do you think there aren't any fights or riots or anything?
Because finally, Latinos are getting disciplined. If you're not disciplined, you cannot remain in the ROTC. And our Sarge, he said that, you know, that we're a bunch of good people.
ROTC is not the only area where we've witnessed school spirit. A local chapter of the Aspira Club was formed to meet the academic, counseling, and social needs of the Latino student body at Calvin Park.
Okay, there's two. The first one is for sure, okay? It's in the Aspira has benefited the aspirantes by offering leadership programs such as Aspira itself. They have counselors also for counseling to help all Hispanic youth, provides financial services and aids for college, gets the students motivated and innating the Latino student in college.
So, the picture's not as dismal as first thought. Although there has been a decline in certain areas of school spirit, other areas such as ROTC, soccer, baseball, and Aspira are very much on the rise. And now, for a focus report on gangs. Steve?
In the past, Calvin Park has been known for its problems with gangs, and its students have often been associated with the much publicized violent activities in the area. But recently, there has been a measurable decrease in gang membership and related violent activity. Despite these changes, some people still see Calvin Park as it was. We'd like to show you what we uncovered in our investigation. In the neighborhood surrounding Calvin Park, we found that some residents are still afraid of gangs. One woman agreed to talk to us, but only if we kept her identity secret. What is the reputation of Calvin Park in your eyes?
Bad. I think it used to be somewhat good when I was going, and it was starting to go downhill then, and it just went downhill quickly. Even a year after, it was getting really bad, and now there is no control over anything over there. I would be afraid of. I don't send my children out when their school is in session. I send them out after.
So you're more afraid of the gang members?
Yeah. Yes. Very much.
And why did you join the gang?
Why? Because I felt that, you know, there was a necessity for me to protect myself. And I felt that by being in a street gang member, I always had the protection of a lot of people that were constantly around me.
Why did the gangsters catch on so quickly at Calvin Park?
Why? Because there's nothing else at Calvin Park to give them that identity. The only relationship that Latino students had at Calvin Park was the street gang, and the Imperial Gangsters was majority Latins, Latino, and there was nothing else that they could relate to, so they joined the Imperial Gangsters.
Investigator Rooney, is there a gang problem here at Calvin Park?
I think we could ask ourselves, is there a gang problem in the community from which we draw the students to Calvin Park? And I would say, yes, there is a gang problem.
And how severe is this gang problem?
It's serious because it disrupts some of the activities in the community and some of the activities in the school. But I believe it's under control.
How do you dilute the gang problems within the school?
We don't allow the gang members to wear certain gang paraphernalia in school, their sweaters or jackets or anything that might signify that they're a member of this street gang. It seems to be relatively effective.
Our findings show that gangs have created a bad image for Calvin Park. And even though efforts are being made by some concerned individuals to try and turn things around, it appears to be an uphill battle that will not be easily resolved.
Thanks, Steve. Here's Vince Garrido with his perspective on stereotyping.
Stereotyping. What is it? And who does it affect? Stereotyping often begins with name-calling, a harmless but still dehumanizing way of putting someone down. For example, at Calvin Park, we sometimes hear the term wetback applied to Mexicans,
pork chops to Puerto Ricans, communist to Cubans, and white boy to Anglos. But with stereotyping, there is a more harmful, destructive element working. It is a negative label used to describe someone because of their race or ethnic background. Stereotyping and name-calling together only widen racial barriers that already exist between people. In the following 2 segments, we will show how one teacher's stereotypes keep her locked out and unable to reach her students, and how stereotyping makes communication between 2 students almost impossible.
This place is a zoo. It used to be a joy to teach here, but not anymore. Since all those Puerto Ricans have infested this place, teaching is impossible. They can't learn anything anyhow. They expect a free education just like a free breakfast and lunch. Look at them. When I try to teach them, they pretend not to understand English. Going into my class is like putting myself on the firing line. All I can look forward to is 40 minutes of combat and aggravation. If it weren't for those Latinos, everything would be as it should be. God, I can't wait for retirement.
White people, man, they just don't understand our problems. Latinos, why bother? They just don't care how white people feel. Whites don't understand what it is to grow up Latino and have real problems. All Latino kids think that whites have it made. They don't think that we have problems too. Did you ever try to talk with white girls? Let me tell you, they don't listen. They have closed minds and they think they have all the answers. Try and talk with the Latino. Just try. They think you're not with it and that you've got no style just because you're white. Sure, some of them think they're real liberal, but just try going to an all-white party with some of your liberal friends. See how friendly everyone is to you then. I went to an all-Latino party once. What a drag. They were so cliquish. No one would even talk to me, even my so-called friend who brought me there. That's why I can't stand Latinos. They're hostile, clannish, and they don't even try to understand.
These 2 reenactments dramatize the misconceptions that are found at Calvin Park. And there are many more that we experience every day that hinder communication between our administration, teachers, and students alike. We need to examine the problem and start to recognize each other as individuals instead of as communist, pork chops, wetbacks, or white boys.
My house isn't worth a damn anymore since the Spicks moved into the neighborhood. I guess the best thing I can do is get out before it gets any worse.
Some high school counselor came to my grammar school to sign me up for Calvin Park, but I don't want to go there because of all the bad things I heard about it.
It's ridiculous to try to teach them anything. They don't really want to learn. I might as well forget it and just try to keep order in my class.
If the school doesn't care about me, why should I care about school? If things don't change, we can all look forward to a more prejudiced society, poor education resulting in wider gaps between people, and the continuing downfall of Calvin Park.
For our closing segment, Vince asked the students about their feelings on the reputation of Calvin Park.
What is Calvin Park's reputation?
It's okay, not too good.
How do you feel about it?
Well, I think the whites are kind of like a minority here.
It's not too good. You know, lots of fights. All the time there's writing on the wall, broken windows.
What is Calvin Park's reputation?
Reputation? Hopefully we can all get together and just join in instead of everybody being against each other of race and all.
How do you feel about Calvin?
I feel I got a lot of friends, a lot of good people.
What is the reputation of Calvin Park?
Well, it's a very nice school, and I liked it very much, and I'm glad to be part of it.
How do you feel about Calvin Park?
Well, I must say it's not no lane tech, but it's enough school, you know, to lead everybody to the careers, and I like it very much.
It's not a bad school. Well, I've been going here 2 years, and you know, I haven't gotten in no trouble yet. You know, being white and half Latino school, like they say, and it's not too bad.
Most people think that Calvin Park is a really bad school, that there are a lot of fights and a lot of gangs, but really Calvin Park is just like any other normal high school. There are a lot of students, and if you have the right friends, you can get along real well together. It's really a great school.
Well, that just about wraps up tonight's program.
We, the co-producers of this special edition of As We See It,
would like to thank you for watching.
We hope you find our show informative as well as entertaining.
Thank you and good evening.